Mel fought tooth and nail against the divorce, silently hoping that Henry would change his mind and stay. However, she also had to struggle to retain any sense of self-respect. Many friends severed ties with her upon learning about her actions towards Henry. Mel requested that the court mandate counseling, demonstrating her commitment to therapy and asserting that she had no involvement with David Miller. Despite this, representing herself proved to be a poor decision due to the high cost of legal fees. Though Mel tried her best to manage, she managed to delay the process but couldn't stop it altogether. It was a beautiful winter day in Austin, Texas. The temperature peaked at 67 degrees with a gentle breeze from the west. The evening promised to be even more spectacular, with a full moon and temperatures around 50 degrees at 8 p.m., creating the perfect weather forecast. Adding to the excitement, Florida-Georgia Line was performing at the Moody Center, and Henry Can, pronounced like hurricane, had 2 front-row tickets for himself and his wife, Melanie. This was meant to be an early Valentine's Day celebration for the couple, both 33 years old and married for almost 5 years. The only issue was that it wasn't warm in Sioux Falls, South Dakota. In fact, the temperature was about 10 degrees, with a foot of snow on the ground and another 10 inches expected before the storm ended. So, what did this have to do with Henry, Melanie, and their plans to see Tyler Hubbard, Brian Kelly, and the rest of the FGL crew? Good question. Henry had been called at the last minute to fly to Sioux Falls the previous day to fix a major computer glitch at the Sanford Health Biomedical Facility. Their neonatal unit was involved in a nationwide research project when the issue arose. Henry, being his company's top IT expert, was seldom required to travel, but Sanford was their third largest client. So Henry had taken the first available Delta flight out of Austin on Thursday. It took him about 6 hours to resolve everything. He had a reservation for the 6 a.m. flight back to Austin, which would get him home a full 10 hours before the concert. However, by 3 a.m., there was already a foot of snow on the ground, and it was still falling. His Delta app started sending notifications of delays and then finally a cancellation. Henry was wide awake, searching for alternative options. Henry was well paid for his work, and he deserved every cent. But his boss would be furious if he chartered a flight home. Still, having just saved the company several $1,000s more than the charter would cost, he decided to give it a shot. By 5 a.m., it was clear that no flights were leaving anytime soon. The snow was expected to continue heavily throughout the day, with temperatures dropping to around 0. Some were calling it the storm of the decade. All Henry could think was, "Damn!" Around 9 a.m., he hit speed. Dial number 2 for Melanie's office line. Her assistant, Kim, answered on the second ring and put him through. "Hey babe, I'm so excited about tonight. What time are you coming home?" "Mel, have you seen the weather in Sioux Falls?" "No." "Henry, I knew that's where you were headed, but I haven't checked. What's going on?" "Unfortunately, a whole lot of snow. 12 inches so far, with maybe 10 more today before it stops. All flights are canceled." "Oh, baby. I'm so sorry. I was really looking forward to tonight. I know I've been working long hours lately, and this was the perfect chance to start a romantic weekend together. Sometimes I really hate your job." "I'm upset too, Mel. But you know I only travel 4 or 5 times a year and only when absolutely necessary. This was a big crisis with a major client. As you said, we haven't spent much time together lately, but you're the one putting in crazy hours. Not me. If anything, my job provides us a pretty good lifestyle in Texas." "You're right, Henry. It's just that we've been apart more than we've been together lately. I know a lot of that is on me. I'm working hard to make partner, and that means I have to put in the time. You're already at a point where you can control most of your schedule and keep it manageable. I'm getting there, but it will be another year or so before I can control my own hours. I miss you, and I miss us." "Me too, babe. Why don't you grab your friend Sue and go have fun? The tickets are front row, and it's too much hassle to try and sell them. I can arrange for a car to pick you up and bring you home. Don't let my situation ruin a great show." Melanie hesitated and suggested just selling the tickets. She thought about staying home and streaming the concert online instead. She knew she could easily sell the seats through their Ticketmaster account. She kept saying she didn't want to go if he wasn't with her. Henry encouraged her to go and have fun, reminding her about her new Tecovas boots that looked great on her. After a few minutes of back and forth, she gave in. They exchanged "I love yous" and hung up. 5 minutes later, Melanie found her burner phone in the back compartment of her large tote bag and hit speed dial 1. This was her side of the conversation. "Hey, how's your day going?" "Well, maybe I have something to cheer you up. Henry just called, and he's stuck in Sioux Falls, South Dakota." "Yeah. He had to rush up there on business and got caught in a huge snowstorm. Can you believe his bad luck?" "Yep. Good luck for you. Anyway, I still have these 2 tickets to Florida-Georgia line tonight. But my husband will be stuck in the Great White North. Is Diane still visiting her folks in Memphis? Great. How about we enjoy an evening together? I've got a new denim skirt and boots I've been wanting to try out. I'll Uber to your place and we can go from there. How does that sound?" "Yes. I'll order Uber Black to make sure we have tinted windows." Giggling. "Yes, let's plan on a sleepover after the concert. I'll see you around 7. Can't wait." Melanie worked diligently and skipped lunch so she could leave her office by 4:30 p.m. She wanted to enjoy a relaxing hour in the tub before heading to the concert. Before leaving, she called her best friend Susan O'Connor. They had met during her first year at the firm and instantly connected. With only a year's difference in age and getting married just 2 weeks apart, they had a lot in common. "Hey, Susie Q, I need a favor, babe." "What's up, Mel? Happy to help if I can. If Henry ever asks you how our evening was at the Florida-Georgia line concert tonight, just say it was awesome." "What the heck, Mel? Are you still messing around with David?" Melanie giggled. "Yes, I just can't quit him. I know his partners call him that because he can be a jerk, but let me tell you, there's another good reason for the nickname, girl." Sue wasn't amused. "Mel, Henry is an amazing person, and you two are a wonderful couple. It's time to think about children and start a family. You're not in college anymore, sis. Why did you contact this player? You're risking everything for an affair." Mel sighed. Her friend was loyal, but at the same time more conservative when it came to loyalty. I know, Sue. Henry is a great guy, and there's no way I want to lose him. But David is wild and funny. We are both happily married, but there is just incredible chemistry between us. Mel, you need to think carefully before you speak. If you were really happy in your marriage, you wouldn't be having an affair with your boss. And he wouldn't cheat on his employee if he was happy. What part of your marriage vows did you not understand? Giving up on everyone else is pretty simple. Mel was getting tired of her friend's lectures. Sue, will you cover for me if Henry ever asks? I will not provide any information or raise this issue, but if he asks me directly, I will say that I was with you. Where are we sitting? The first row, right in the middle. Thank you, Susie Q. You're the best. Next weekend we'll spend a day at the spa. I'm buying. How typical it is for Henry to buy great tickets. And now you're using his gift to cheat on him with David, Sue thought. To which she replied, Okay, bye. Mel rushed home and began to prepare for the date. She drank a couple of glasses of her favorite Pinot Grigio, shaved her legs in a bubble bath, and then got dressed. She wore a cream lace bra so she could leave the top few buttons of her white blouse undone. Her skirt was about 6 inches above her knees, showing off her toned legs. Her dark gray boots matched her vest perfectly. They had been a Christmas gift from Henry, and this was her first time wearing them. But her excitement made her forget the irony. She looked in the mirror and was pleased with her reflection. She knew she'd turn a few heads tonight, but there was only one person she wanted to notice, her. She had one more glass of wine after ordering the Uber. When it arrived, she mentioned a stop on the way to the concert, and the driver was happy to oblige, thinking of the extra money. The car pulled up to a gated condo community. Melanie gave the code, and they drove 2 blocks before stopping at the curb. Right on cue, David Miller, Melanie's boss, came bounding out of his condo and jumped into the back seat, greeting her with an enthusiastic and passionate kiss. "Good Lord, you smell and look wonderful, Mel. I think we should just skip the concert and head straight back to your place." Melanie welcomed his kiss, opening her mouth with a purr. "Settle down, big boy. There's plenty of time for that later. This is going to be a great show." The Uber driver didn't say anything, but noticed a diamond engagement ring on her left hand as she kissed her lover. "A girl of easy virtue, and a jerk," he muttered to himself. Mel never intended to cheat on her husband. They met on a blind date arranged by her best friend, and a mutual attraction quickly developed between them. She was sociable, friendly, and naturally able to establish contacts. Henry, on the other hand, was more reserved, but had an inner strength that attracted her. He never outshone her, but she always felt safe in his presence. He was kind, but at the same time, firm, warm-hearted, and wise beyond his years. Henry attended college on an ROTC scholarship and after graduation spent 5 years in the Marine Corps. His life experience combined with his personality has made him a person you can always rely on. This reliability attracted Mel no less than his sturdy height of 6 feet 2 inches and weight of 190 pounds. Body type. From the very beginning, Henry was skeptical about Mel's hobbies. He never considered himself a good match or anything special. The Corps instilled in him that it was his duty to take care of those around him. "You're in command on the front line and you're the last to retreat," was the lesson that had been drummed into his headquarters. This code of conduct had an indelible impact on him even after he returned to civilian life. Therefore, the fact that he was being chased by a beautiful woman confused him somewhat. The only time he felt out of place was when Mel would suddenly grab him and kiss him passionately, or give him a look across the crowded room that said clearly, "I need you to figure out how to make love to me right now." As they spent more time together, Henry's fears diminished and Mel's confidence in their relationship grew. They got married after an 18-month courtship, which included a 4-month engagement. Thanks to his MOS in communications and his natural talent, Henry secured an excellent job with his current company in Austin. By his 3rd year there, he was managing his own department. In his 5th year, he became the vice president of IT development and client support. Mel graduated from law school 9 months after they got married and secured a solid entry-level position at a mid-size firm in Austin that specialized in oil and mineral rights. She was extremely intelligent and started gaining the attention of the firm's 3 partners, Connor, Sims, and Miller. And that's when the trouble began. David Miller was a 43-year-old married man with 2 teenage children. His wife, Diana, was the principal of the local high school. Mel liked Diana, and she always thought they were a good match for each other as a couple. Despite this, much about her boss remained a mystery to her. However, it was clear that working with David Miller was not easy. Working as a senior partner, he spent at least 55 hours a week, while his 2 colleagues worked barely 40. He expected his team to work about 70 hours a week. Mel had been working at the firm for 3 years now, and she had finally managed to reduce the number of working hours to an acceptable 65 per week. The GOAT seemed pleased with her work and gave her better assignments. They began to spend more time together both during the day and after hours. They began to spend more time with the team, and increasingly just the 2 of them. Soon, the time spent alone outweighed the time spent with the team. They began to communicate more intimately and sometimes exchanged touches. They were playing with fire, and they both knew it. It took 6 months before the sparks ignited into a full-scale flame. They won a significant victory, which brought the practice about $2 million. David's share was supposed to be approximately $400,000, and Mel was supposed to receive a $45,000 bonus. A team of 6 people gathered at David's office for a celebration in the late afternoon. David was in such high spirits that he even opened a bottle of his bourbon, 4 Roses, 1 Barrel, for the occasion. An hour later, the party started to end. David asked Mel to stay for a minute. This elicited knowing grins from the more astute members of the team. David escorted the last visitor out and quietly locked the door. He turned around and saw that Mel was leaning against his desk, already unbuttoning her blouse. David resolutely crossed the room, hugged her, and kissed her. David wasn't as big or strong as Henry, but he was more assertive. He belonged to the type of man who clearly defines what he wants, and then steadily achieves it. He had wanted Mel ever since he first started working closely with her about 2 years ago. His longing had been smoldering for a long time, and now it finally broke free. They had it happen. "You're amazing, Mel," David finally said, moving away from her so she could turn around and hug him. "I like these heated conversations, but I think you're incredible, and I hope it's not just for once." "No, David. I don't think this is just a one-time meeting. I feel a connection with you that I don't want to ignore. We are both married, and we want to keep it that way. But I hope that from time to time we will have moments like today." "I'm glad to hear that, Mel. Yes. We both want to save the marriage, but I also want to have more moments like this." "Let me show you how much I want this," Mel replied, ready for the second round. 6 months had passed, and now Mel and David were walking into the concert arena, hand in hand. They had managed to keep their affair well hidden, but they made sure to meet at least twice a month. Tonight, if they were concerned about being seen, they didn't show it. Though not excessively affectionate, it was clear to any observer that this was a date between 2 people clearly attracted to each other. Back in Sioux Falls, a frustrated Henry decided to stream the concert live. "If I can't be with her, maybe I'll catch a glimpse of her when they pan the crowd," he thought. After the warm-up band, FGL took the stage with high energy, playing 4 fast and loud songs. The camera focused less on the audience until the 5th song, a slow ballad. As Cruise played, the cameras began capturing couples in the crowd. Henry almost took a quick bathroom break when the song started, but stayed put, remembering it was Mel's favorite. 30 seconds later, his world shattered and his marriage ended. The camera focused on a couple in the front row, exactly where Henry had bought tickets. A man and woman were embracing, swaying slowly, and kissing deeply, completely unaware of the camera's attention. There was no mistaking Mel in her new boots from last Christmas, and though he didn't know him well, there was no doubt that David Miller was the man holding and passionately kissing his wife. Henry collapsed to the floor, speechless. The pain of betrayal hit him like a punch to the gut. He felt overwhelmed, disoriented, and struggled to catch his breath. The camera panned over the other 3 couples before returning to Mel and David. This time, Mel broke off the kiss, looked up, and saw them on the screen. There was an unmistakable look of panic on her face, which she tried to hide by burying her face in David and pulling his head towards her so that he would not look up. For 15 minutes, Henry sat on the floor with tears streaming down his face. He hesitated between asking, "Why chalk?" with a voice full of pain and an expression of his anger. "Damn you, Mel, and I'm definitely going to get back at you, David Miller." When he began to recover, he realized that he needed to act quickly. Since his time in the Army, he had known that staying put and doing nothing was a death sentence. Only by taking action could he get a chance. He began to mobilize. Henry contacted his close friend and lawyer, Michael Lipscomb. Michael was stunned by the call at 9:30 p.m. on Friday, but he was even more shocked by the nature of the conversation. After expressing his sympathy and asking Henry several times if he was sure it was Mel, Michael told him to hang up and wait for an incoming call for the next 5 minutes. 3 minutes later, the phone rang. He didn't recognize the number, but it had a 512 Austin area code. "Hello, this is Henry Cann." "Hello, Mr. Cann, this is Erica Hamilton, attorney at law and a close friend of Michael's." "Hello, Ms. Hamilton. Thank you for reaching out. Please call me Erica. And you can call me Henry, Erica said, cutting him off before he could continue. I apologize for being abrupt, but we're on a tight schedule. Your wife is at a concert with another man, and you saw them being intimate on the live stream, correct? Yes. All right, where were they seated and what were they wearing, as far as you could tell? Henry provided the details as quickly and clearly as he could. After we hang up, please send me the most recent and highest quality photo you have of your wife. I've already dispatched a private investigator to the concert, and he'll arrive in about 10 minutes. He'll monitor them throughout the night and into the weekend if necessary. We need to collect as much evidence as possible, as quickly as possible. Understood, thank you. Henry, could you find a reason to stay in Sioux Falls for a few more days? I need our evidence to be absolutely solid, and just attending one night of the concert won't be enough. If you can stay snowed in or work on something else for your client, we'll have a better chance of catching them off guard. Sorry for being blunt. Yes, I can manage that, Henry responded. All right, Henry. Send me the photo as soon as possible and stay put. I'll give you an update by noon tomorrow at the latest. Call your wife in the morning and let her know you'll be delayed until at least Monday night. I assume your employer will be fine with this. Yes, as a senior VP, my schedule is flexible. I have additional work I can do with a client on Monday. Excellent. I have to go now. We'll talk tomorrow. Henry appreciated the swift response and the conversation. Although his mind was still racing and the final outcome was uncertain, it was clear that this woman was skilled. He barely slept that night, and as a side note, he never listened to FGL again. By 5:30 a.m., Henry had given up on trying to sleep. He got up and glanced outside. The snow was lighter but still falling. He turned on the local news station and learned that 22 inches had accumulated over the past 36 hours, a notable record for Sioux Falls. Clearly nothing would be moving until later in the day or even the next. Henry began jotting down notes. Cheating was completely unacceptable to him. Whether it was the first instance or the 100th, broken trust in close relationships was something he would not tolerate. On top of the cheating, the utter disrespect they both showed him was beyond belief. They were slow dancing and making out in a very public place in his town. Even if only one or two people saw them, news would spread quickly. Did you hear Melanie Cann is cheating on her husband with her boss? There was no way he would tolerate that. He reviewed his actions as her husband over the past 5 years. He had always been faithful, not that women were knocking on his door. He rarely looked at other women. He was deeply in love with Mel, which meant he was completely loyal to her. They had their arguments from time to time, but he was a good husband, caring, friendly, protective, and always respecting her as his equal partner. He didn't deserve to be treated with such scorn. He created a spreadsheet of assets and liabilities. He made a brief list of people he needed to contact, including his boss, his dad, and 2 friends from the Corps. He outlined the next steps pending his conversation with Erica. It was only 7 a.m., so he threw on his sweats and headed to the hotel's fitness room, working out intensely until 9. After taking a shower and having some breakfast, he picked up his phone and saw 2 texts from Mel. She was checking in on him and expressed how much she missed him. She mentioned that the concert was okay and that Sue had joined her. More disrespectful behavior. He decided to investigate something. Although he probably should have consulted his lawyer first, he was a Marine, and inaction during a crisis didn't seem like an option. The phone rang twice before it was answered. "Hey, Henry," Sue said. "I heard you're stuck in Sioux Falls. The weather map looks awful." "Hey, Sue, yeah, it's a complete whiteout here. Texas hasn't seen this much snow in 100 years, let alone in a day or so. I'll be glad to get home." "What can I do for you, Henry?" Sue's voice sounded uneasy. "Well, Sue, I was just curious. How did you find the concert last night? I thought the opening song, 'This Is How We Roll,' was pretty great. I watched it live from my hotel room." "Yeah, Henry, it was a great show. I know Mel had a good time, but she really missed being with you." "Thanks for that, Sue. Can I ask you one more quick question before I let you go?" "Sure." I know you're a huge FGL fan, so I'm curious how you could confuse This Is How We Roll with Up Down, which was actually the song they opened with last night. How does that happen, Sue? There was silence on the other end of the line, so Henry continued. Sue, I know you're Mel's friend, but I also considered you a friend, just like Jim, her husband. It looks like you've taken sides and are willing to sacrifice our friendship so that Mel can be with her boss. I don't understand what I've done to you and Jim to deserve such disrespect, but your betrayal causes deep pain. Sue felt a lump rise in her throat and tears welled up in her eyes. It became clear to her that she had made a mistake by hiding behind a formality. No true friend would ask someone who is dear to him to maintain dishonesty and harm others. I'm really sorry, Henry, she said in a barely audible voice. How long has this been going on, Sue? How long has David Miller been dating my wife? About 6 months, Henry. Henry had mentally braced himself for a situation like this, but hearing it for the first time caught him off guard. He had to make a conscious effort to remain composed. Sue, does Jim know you're lying for Mel and assisting her in breaking her wedding vows to cheat on me? Sue gasped. Oh no, Henry, Jim doesn't know anything about this. He would be horrified and deeply ashamed to find out about my involvement. All right, Sue. For now, I won't inform Jim about your part in this. Everything will come to light eventually, and I'm sure he'll have questions that you'll need to address. Jim is a good man, so my advice to you is to come clean when the time comes. Meanwhile, if I hear that you've shared any details of this conversation with Mel, I'll personally tell Jim and make sure he understands exactly what role you played in helping Mel disrespect me and ruin our marriage. Sue was in tears. No, Henry, I won't tell Mel anything. I won't be answering any messages or calls over the weekend. I'll find a way to avoid talking to her. I am very, very sorry and ashamed, Henry. Henry abruptly ended the conversation without saying goodbye. On the other end of the line, Sue began to realize the extent of her own stupidity, committed for the sake of friendship. She realized that she needed to talk to Jim as soon as possible. The sooner the better. Then Henry called Mel. She sounded sleepy, but she played the role of a loving wife flawlessly. She was disappointed to learn that he would not be home until at least Monday evening. Although he and Sue were having a good time, things were different without him. She had to run a few errands and clean up the house a bit. Nothing special. She promised to save something special for her husband's return home. She ended the conversation with a respectful, I love you. Henry replied with a simple, goodbye. Although it seemed strange to her, she quickly forgot about it because she was with her lover at that moment. At 11:58 a.m., Henry's phone rang and Erica called him. She provided brief information and mentioned that she would call back around 7 in the evening with a detailed report. She called at exactly 7 p.m. Here is a brief description of the situation. 1. The private investigator was a highly qualified specialist. He managed to get to the concert and take additional photos. Although Mel was wary of cameras for a while, by the end of the concert, they were hugging and kissing again. 2. They returned to Henry and Mel's house. Anticipating this, the private investigator asked his employee to install recording equipment in several rooms. They spent the night together. 3. Later in the kitchen, they had a casual but frank conversation about their relationship, including details of several intimate contacts in the law office. They also discussed strategies for keeping their secrets. 4. They went to lunch and then spent the afternoon and evening in Kans's bedroom, continuing to engage in intimacy. 5. The private investigator will continue to monitor and record, but Erica expected everything to be about the same. Then she wanted to understand what Henry was thinking. He spent the whole day thinking and taking notes and shared his thoughts with his lawyer. For the last 6 months, she has publicly and privately humiliated me. Our marriage is over, he began. She should experience the same humiliation she subjected me to in front of her friends and family. The truth about her actions must be revealed. There is no need to exaggerate, the facts are quite obvious. And I'm not interested in any nonsense about irreconcilable differences. I want her to be served at the workplace as soon as possible. I also want his wife to know when I'm going to serve Mel so she can coordinate the service and him at the same time. The same approach applies to David. I want his wife to get all the information we have about him. I hope she'll give him a hard time with the divorce. I also hope that his partners will be more honest than him and force him to retire from practice. Maybe if we threaten to sue the firm for their official affairs, we will be able to push them in this direction. I don't want to stay in this house. I need to sell it because of the memories. To be honest, I'm not sure if I'm going to stay in Texas at all. However, I don't want her to live there either. I hope that we will be able to agree on a 50-50 division of the property when selling. I also want to protect all my assets. I don't mind spending my money on car payments or other small debts, but I certainly don't want her to receive any alimony from me. She has just received a substantial bonus and is already receiving a substantial salary. Erica posed a few follow-up questions and informed Henry that given his ability to earn a substantial income, it was highly likely she would receive some alimony. However, if the law firm had a morality clause, proving that his infidelity was the cause of the marriage's downfall could be beneficial. Henry would remain in Sioux Falls or Austin, keeping a low profile until Tuesday afternoon. Mel would be served with papers in the mid-afternoon. Erica planned to locate Mrs. Miller before then to see if she was interested in participating. Henry noticed that Mel hadn't called him again on Saturday or into the early evening on Sunday. She and her new companion must have been having a great time. He realized he needed to call her, or she might become suspicious. He made the call around 9. "Hey, I was just thinking about you and realized we hadn't talked since yesterday. I hope you're still planning to come home tomorrow. I can't wait to see you. I've missed you so much. Sorry, Mel, but it'll be Tuesday. I have a layover at O'Hare that will get me home around 3 p.m. so we can plan on having dinner together." "Okay," she responded, sounding disappointed. "But the next time I run into James, the CEO and Henry's boss, I'm telling him no more winter trips. He ruined a perfectly good weekend we should have enjoyed together." "Feel free to tell him that when you see him next," Henry said, almost laughing at the thought. Internally, he was thinking, "What a cold-hearted, evil you've become, Mel." They chatted for a little longer, and before hanging up, Mel said, "Henry, I love you so much. You know that, right? You know just how much I love you." "Yes, Mel," Henry replied, struggling to hold back tears. "I know exactly how much you love me." With that, he ended the call. He couldn't bear the thought of letting her humiliate him, even if he gave her a hint. He understood what was happening. "She will never humiliate me again," he thought, as he dialed his boss James to keep him updated. By 3 o'clock on Tuesday afternoon, Henry was seated at the kitchen table, unsure when Mel would return. From Erica, he knew everything was progressing. Mel would be served between 2 and 4. It seemed Mrs. Miller had forgiven the jerk for 2 previous affairs, including one with Mel, but she was not in the mood for a third, and had hired Erica to represent her as well. Both Henry Cann and Diane Miller were listed as plaintiffs in the civil suit against Connor, Sims, and Miller. Erica had pointed out that she didn't think the suit would gain much traction, but rumors suggested that although Connor and Sims weren't exactly saints, they weren't inclined to tolerate immoral behavior that could damage their practice. The jerk might be shown the door after all. At 3:15 p.m., Erica called Henry to inform him that the deed was done. As they briefly discussed the next steps, Henry's phone began to flood with texts and calls from Mel. The texts in order read, "WTF? How dare you humiliate me at my workplace? Answer me, you jerk. You better be home when I get there. I'll never forgive you for this." Henry had only been in combat twice. His role in communications was primarily support. But every Marine is trained as a rifleman, and he had found himself in firefights twice in Iraq. Neither encounter lasted long, and his captain, who was not known for giving praise, had pulled the young first lieutenant aside and told him he had handled himself well for a rookie. That experience helped him stay calm and composed as he prepared for the confrontation brewing in his kitchen. "Henry, Henry, where the hell are you?" Mel yelled as she stormed through the side door from the driveway. Henry remained seated in silence at the table. Mel stormed around the corner, clutching a file, and slammed it down on the table. "You bastard! You served me divorce papers at work? How could you do that? How could you be so cruel? Do you even realize how humiliating that was?" Her voice softened slightly. "Why, Henry? Why would you file for divorce? We love each other, we have a great marriage and a bright future ahead. What are you thinking? Talk to me." Henry remained calm, realizing that this was the first time he had seen Mel since the terrible revelation made last Friday night. Her eyes seemed sunken and swollen, and she was clearly anxious and nervous. He noticed that she had opened a divorce application, but had not yet read the case file. "Sit down, Mel, and we'll talk it over." "Don't you dare tell me to sit down, you idiot. Who do you think you are? Are you sleeping with some girl? I swear I'll do something terrible if that's the case." She loomed over him. That's enough, Henry thought. He straightened to his full height, towering over her. With a calm but stern expression, he spoke in a voice that demanded attention. "Sit down, Mel. Now." She obeyed and sat down. "Mel, have you even looked at the file attached to the divorce application?" She shook her head but didn't reach for the file. "Well, let's see what made my world collapse last Friday night. First of all, here's a photo of you and David, the jerk at the concert. No, it's not Sue, as you lied to me, but your boss. It's a loving hug and a kiss that you share." Mel recoiled from the table as if the photo was a venomous snake ready to sting. "David, it's not—" "Shh, hush, Mel. Now is my time to talk. Your turn will come yet." The next item is a flash drive. I won't play it here. You can watch it on your laptop later. It has a record of how you and that jerk were intimate in our bed last Friday night, Saturday night and Sunday morning. It also includes conversations right here at this table between you and this jerk, discussing previous adventures and how to keep Mrs. Diane Miller and me in the dark about what to do next. By the way, I know that your office is not very close to his office, so maybe you haven't heard. But Mrs. Miller also handed him the divorce papers today. I'm not sure how he's going to explain to his teenage children that he was caught with an employee for the third time, but that's not my concern. You knew you were the third, didn't you? Melanie flinched at the revelation. Obviously, she considered herself unique, the only one he had ever been married to. It looked like this jerk was also a great liar, but on the other hand, he was a lawyer. What did she expect? Anyway, there are still pages detailing your infidelities as far as Sue could remember. Obviously, she realized that your cover could cost her her marriage to Jim, so she, so to speak, appealed to the prosecutor's office with a statement to testify. In other words, she exposed you and told you everything. All the nights that she lied and said that you were with her. Even the weekend with the girls last November was a cover for you and that jerk to sneak off to South Padre. By the way, I wouldn't contact Sue anytime soon. Jim has made it clear that their marriage is over, if she talks to you in his presence. Finally, you have a copy of the civil lawsuit that Diana Miller and I are filing against your law firm. Although having an affair with a jerk in our marital bed is not against company rules, his desk, sofa, and private bathroom are part of the lawyer's office, so we can conduct business there. Our lawyer believes that we have every chance of success in this case. So, my dear unfaithful wife, that's why I'm divorcing you. You broke my heart in a way that I don't think I'll ever be able to fully put into words. I was so upset last week when I had to fly to Sioux Falls because I couldn't wait to spend time with the only woman I've ever loved. The one I wanted to love forever. My wife. The man I hoped would be the mother of our children. Then, when I watched the concert live, hoping to catch a glimpse of you singing and dancing with your faithful friend Sue, I was devastated to see you in the arms of another man, longing for him, rejoicing in his kisses and touches. My soul was crushed in an instant. I think I'm old enough to handle a grudge, even a serious grudge. People are not perfect. I'm not perfect either. Forgiveness is important in marriage. But you didn't just offend me, you despised me. You deliberately humiliated me in front of everyone. I cannot and will not tolerate this. I'm not staying married to you, Mel. Not for a second longer than is necessary to finalize the divorce. I'm not going to make it easy for you. I'm going to save as much of my money as possible. Your family and friends will find out the truth about what you have done. I will not hide from them the truth about the one who spat in my face with her actions. You're on your own now. Maybe this is what you wanted from the beginning. That's it. I'm done. Say whatever you want if necessary. Mel tried to hold back her tears, but her efforts were not very successful. Despite the fact that she was a strong and proud woman, the man she claimed to love and whom she had betrayed so deeply destroyed her with his honest words. He pinpointed the extent of her terrible actions and their consequences. She wanted to hate him, to blame him for everything. She desperately tried to avoid coming face to face with her own glaring mistakes, but the truth about who she was inevitable. Have you informed my parents? No, it's up to you. I talked to my family, my boss, and a few friends from my service. Apart from my lawyer and our company's attorney, Michael, I haven't discussed this with anyone else. But let me be clear. If you try to distort the truth or embellish your actions, I will reveal everything, including what is on the flash drive. I can't tell my parents everything. It would be terrible for them to hear all this. You can't hate me that much, Henry? Mel, you didn't give a damn about my feelings or how your choice broke my heart. You've been disgusting to me for at least 6 months, assuming I haven't had any other lovers before. Don't try to play the victim. I'll give you a week to explain yourself to them, and then I'll call them. They better figure out everything that happened, or they'll get a full report. Henry, I swear there were no others. David was the first and only one. Of course, Mel. And you and Sue were at the concert together last Friday. You and David didn't sleep in our bed together all weekend, telling me how much you love me. I'm guessing that everything you're saying at the moment is a lie. I doubt you even know how to tell the truth. Henry, I didn't want this to happen. I didn't aim for that. I got carried away the moment we won the Dutton case. As soon as we started, I wanted to stop, but I just couldn't. I do not know why. Really, Mel? Do you know why? Henry flipped through the file until he found the right page. I'm sorry. I should have realized from your conversations how much you wanted to be faithful to me. For example, this quote from 2 months ago when you were in our bed with David. David, I just can't get enough of you. We have to be very careful. If Diana or Henry ever find out, we'll have to break up, and I'll never stop making love to you. Yes, Mel, it sounds like you're so conflicted about your behavior. Not only did you sleep with another man, but you also lay in our bed calling it making love and saying that you wanted it to never end. You're completely crazy, Mel. Henry's words were starting to hit home. Mel sank into her chair in silence for a moment before finally speaking up. I have no excuses, Henry. I'm an adult and I made my own decisions. I thought I could keep this from you, that I could play this game, and as long as you didn't find out, it would be harmless. I knew David was just a fling. I knew there was never any real love between us, despite what I said. I never had feelings for him like I have for you. But I betrayed you and your love for me without a second thought. Mel took a moment to blow her nose and wipe her eyes. Looking at Henry, she noticed 2 things immediately. His wedding ring lay on the table, and his expression made it clear that he had completely given up on her. He looked at her with the same contempt she had shown him. The security of her life with a loving husband was gone. Henry, I don't know what to do or where to turn. I can't leave the house before the divorce. Doing so would mean admitting it's over and financial ruin. I assume you won't leave either. Can we agree to stay here for now? I need time to think and figure out my next steps. I can't promise I won't contest the divorce. Right now, all I want is to be with you forever. I can't imagine life without you. I'll stay in one of the spare rooms and only interact with you when absolutely necessary. I'll respect your space. Mel, I can't dictate your actions, your thoughts, or your plans. Erica, my lawyer, advised me not to leave the house before the divorce is finalized, and she said you'd feel the same way. You'll stay in the master bedroom tonight. I refuse to sleep on the mattress you and David used. Tomorrow I'm donating it to the Salvation Army and getting a new one. That will be my bed, one you'll never sleep in. Thank you for understanding, Henry. Legally, I have no choice but to fight to stay if necessary, but I appreciate you meeting me halfway on this. I'll start moving my things tomorrow while you're at work. Mel stood up to hug Henry, but he quickly moved away. Screw you, Mel. Don't ever try to touch me again. It's all I can do to stay in the same room with you and remain calm. You shattered my heart and destroyed us. You don't get any comfort from me now or ever after what you've done. You made your choices on your own. You deal with them alone. I may never completely get over what you did, but I'm going to do everything I can to push you out of my life, and that process has already begun. Mel slumped back into her chair, resting her head on the table as she sobbed. Mel fought tooth and nail against the divorce, silently hoping that Henry would change his mind and stay. However, she also had to struggle to retain any sense of self-respect. Many friends severed ties with her upon learning about her actions towards Henry. Mel requested that the court mandate counseling, demonstrating her commitment to therapy and asserting that she had no involvement with David Miller. Despite this, representing herself proved to be a poor decision due to the high cost of legal fees, though Mel tried her best to manage. She managed to delay the process but couldn't stop it altogether. Even Mel's parents urged her to let Henry go. They were horrified by her behavior and supported Henry while trying to keep a minimal relationship with their daughter. After 7 months, the divorce was finalized. The house and savings were divided equally, but David was not required to pay alimony. Miracles do happen. Melanie left Connor, Sims, and Miller to join a small firm in San Antonio. On her departure day, as she was leaving through the front door, she turned to bid farewell to Henry, but he shut the door in her face before she could say anything. Nowadays, she seldom dates, but often goes home with a random man on Friday nights for casual encounters. Perhaps the physical contact eases her pain or serves as a reminder of her past mistakes. It turned out that Connor and Sims had their own moral compass, despite being lawyers. They pushed Miller out of the firm, and he moved to Houston within a few months, joining a small law practice run by his cousin. Diane took him to the cleaners in the divorce, and his children no longer speak to him. The lawsuit, brought by Henry and Diane, was settled out of court for $250,000 each. Erica was very satisfied with the result. David Miller began spending his evenings at a rundown bar called Oilers in a rough part of town. One night, as he was leaving, a man approached him in the parking lot. He looked up and met the gaze of Henry Cann. With no security cameras in the area, Henry said, "Hello, jerk," and then delivered a crushing blow to David's face, breaking his nose and jaw. Henry leaned over him as David spat out blood and a few teeth. "I wanted you to know who did this to you, David. I wanted you to see it coming. Now, if you decide to report this, there are 12 retired Marines sitting in a downtown Austin bar right now. Most of them decorated combat veterans who will vouch for my presence with them all evening. If, by some chance, I'm arrested and charged with assaulting you, 1 or 2 of them will come back and finish what I started, you piece of shit." No charges were ever filed. About a year after his divorce, Henry was leaving a coffee shop in downtown Austin when he noticed a beautiful woman around his age walking in. He held the door open for her as she entered. "Thank you, kind sir," she said. "It's nice to see that some cowboys still have manners." "You're welcome, ma'am," Henry replied and started toward his car. As he was about to get in, he thought, "Why not?" and turned back to re-enter the coffee shop. She was facing the door and looked up immediately when he returned. He walked straight to her table, extended his hand, and said, "I'm sorry, but I just wanted to introduce myself. I'm Henry." She shook his hand and replied, "Nice to meet you, Henry. I'm Lori. Why don't you pull up a chair?" "Yep, that Lori."